And so basically, in the context of human design, when we're talking about this, if things are not moving as you like, it's really the universe saying to you that we know what's right for you. We know what you're here designed to do. What you're doing right now isn't necessarily correct for you. This isn't the direction you necessarily need to go. So we're just going to hold on to that for what's right for you until you catch up or till you rest or till you tend to what it is you need to tend to. And so, yeah. So it's always guiding you for what's right for you. But we are influenced throughout our life by others. Human design reveals who you are energetically and who you came here to be. I'm Dana, human design specialist.
And I'm Haley, the human design newbie. Listen in as we explore how leaning into your authentic self is your ultimate path to success. Welcome to the Human Design High podcast. Let's get into it.
Let's get into it. Yes. Wow, so many things to get into to start with.
It's been so long.
I know. We just came off a big weekend. The two of us. We got to spend the weekend together in St. Augustine
So much
for
fun.
your
Bachelorette
bachelorette
party,
weekend, which was so fun.
Oh, so much fun.
If anybody there from St. Augustine out there, beautiful city you have there. If you've not been to St. Augustine and you can get there, you should definitely go. I would suggest maybe when it's not so hot.
Yes. But then you have to go. It was so hot. It was so hot.
So hot.
It was so hot.
And we live in South Carolina and it's hot.
Oh, it was scorcher.
What are your highlights, Haley?
I think you know the top one.
Okay.
And that was the food tour we did.
Yes.
The golf cart food tour was so much fun.
Feast of St. Augustine. Look them up. We had our tour guide.
Feast of SA.
But he would also say the full thing, Feast of St. Augustine. Okay. That's just their handle on Instagram, Feast of SA, correct. And we had...
Not Feast of SA.
Ariel, we believe his name was.
I thought it was Aaron. I don't know anymore.
Yeah, Ariel, sorry. Wonderful. It was... How many places did we go to?
Okay, so we went to Isabella's, the best sangria. And then we got the empanadas, Ancient City. Wow. And then we went to the olive oil place. And then we went to the Greek restaurant. And then we went to the savory cheesecakes. And then we went and got the pie. So I think that's 6. I think that's all we did.
5 drinks, because we did not have drinks at the olive oil place. We just drank olive oil.
We just drank olive oil and balsamic. I told Presley, he's like, "You're just taking shots of olive oil?" I was like, "No,
it was mixed with vinegar."
I was like, "It's just little sips."
Oh, and it was so good. Have you used yours?
I haven't used it yet.
I did.
I don't know what I'm gonna do with it.
I made potatoes the other night. I just steamed them, and then when I was done, I had an olive oil that has a gremolata flavoring, so it's like garlic and some herbs and stuff, and then some butter, of course.
Obviously,
I liked it. I thought it was good. Ian said he thought it tasted like soap, but that's weird. But that's where we went.
Okay.
I haven't used the other, but okay. So enough about that. But St. Augustine. It was a beautiful time. We got to spend time with your two of your best friends and your Aunt Nancy, my sister. Yes. And best of all, it was so awesome to be there with you. And because of this podcast and our now 25 published episodes, this will be 26. Yes, it's another milestone. We reached 25 full episodes that we've been talking now, that we were able to have our own little shorthand club of what was happening in the group. And isn't it fascinating?
It's more like, than we already have shorthand.
I know. It's like a live lab, that you're just like watching everybody's, design play out. And
it's really helpful, like for me still learning. I mean, I know you still learn things all the time, but like to really see it in action and see like a good example of it is really good.
Yeah, it was really good. So on this trip we had your aunt's a manifesting generator. I'm a generator. One friend's a generator. The other one was a mental projector. And you, who is a splenic projector. And everybody got along really, really great. It was a great weekend. You have great friends. And it was a much needed time of, I haven't been anywhere in a year. It was literally a year from that weekend. The last time I had gone out of town, like not to Charleston to see you or whatever, was this time last year. Colorado, went to the International Human Design Conference, which was awesome. And I missed it this year.
You had your own little mini conference.
They still had the conference this year. I didn't get to go, but I got to spend time with you, which was a lot of fun. And yeah, so that was a good time all around for the weekend. So a little refreshed, and now we're back at it, scrambling, getting some episodes ready. an episode for next week. So I thought where we would go for now, because we've gone through an overview of the centers and the gates and everything. And when I start thinking about really when we're using human design, or how people find it most effective to use human design, like in their everyday life, so it's not just like information, to use it as a way of helping you navigate things in life. I know that a lot of times you hear people when they're going either maybe through transitions, or things aren't working correctly or as they'd like, or they feel a little bit, basically the word you hear a lot, that people feel stuck. I think even at your age, I think I just heard about this woman who wrote a book about the quarter life crisis now, like don't even have to wait for a midlife crisis anymore. Apparently there's a whole quarter life, but I haven't read the book. But anyways, sorry if I'm clearing my throat a bit today because my throat's scratchy. But anyways, I started thinking about the whole feeling stuckness, or, everybody is very interested these days with, which is awesome, because I think this is where we're moving, is intentionally creating and trying to manifest what you want in life. And there's a lot of energy behind not working so hard, but trying to make your life work a little bit better for you. But quite often people get quote unquote stuck. And through the lens of human design, what does this really mean? Because when we start to feel stuck, we get kind of unhappy, you might be feeling stressed or burned out. Have you ever experienced this? I mean, you're only 25, so I don't know if this is apropos to you, but
I mean, I have times where I just don't want to do like anything that I have to do. I just want to like not do anything because everything just kind of feels like blech.
Yeah. But, well, what I thought we'd look at today, because there's lots of different things we can look at, because it all is kind of layered together with that burned out feeling, or like you said, that, what I'm doing. Because this is, we're talking about energetics and how we feel and what to look at. And so we can look at lots of different things in the chart, but I thought we could do, and now we probably will, that I'm thinking about it, by type or by profile, like how we, know that we're not kind of in alignment, basically. But since we're fresh off the centers, thought we might talk about that through the lens of our centers and our definition and our openness throughout the chart, and how that kind of plays out. Sound fun? Okay, so we know that when you're looking at your human design chart, colored in places are the places that you're defined, which means that's
consistent and available energy.
Consistent, yeah, more fixed way that you express that energy. White, not colored in areas are your undefined areas, which how would you explain that?
It means you're taking in the energies that are around you and amplifying them and reflecting them back out.
That's right. And it's flexible and it's variable, because it's going to depend on who you're around, right? And also if there are transits, which we kind of touch on now and then, planetary transits, those, one day maybe we'll talk about that. But if the planetary influences are affecting your chart, that can happen as well, especially if you're a reflector, because reflectors have no definition in their chart. And so it is through the movement of the moon and the planetary things and things, planetary things and people that
planetary bodies.
Thank you. That creates definition.
Them space things
that they experience that. So on that theme of openness or being undefined, like you said, we tend to, when we are taking in, reflecting, or amplifying, reflecting back, we feel it more intensely. Like we talk about, if you have if you're undefined in the emotional solar plexus, you might be seen throughout your life as the one who was more emotional and dramatic, because you're basically amplifying whoever you're around. And so that can occur. It doesn't always occur, but it can. And so with that in mind, it shows us that where we are open or undefined, we feel things more intensely that are related to those themes. And so what happens is we tend to believe that that is really who we are, because it's a more intense experience.
More intense.
And that's what they talk about in human design all the time, about the not self behaviors, because that's not you. It's really just what you're learning about through other people. So it gets us kind of confused. And it can create what Karen Parker calls mistaken motivations. You know, a lot of these behaviors that are exhibited that can be almost predictable if you know about the openness and the undefinedness in someone's chart. They tend to exhibit rather predictable behaviors. You know, they'll talk about the head center, or what's another one that's a good one, the like the throat center, looking for attention. Generally, people who are undefined there or non-motorized are looking to be recognized, because there's this pressure to express or to do, but can't necessarily do it on their own. So it's that kind of thing. So we tend to not self behavior or some kind of mistaken motivation would be attention seeking, to get attention. But when we're thinking about deliberately creating or working with like manifestation, or trying to be like intentional with what you're doing, or even setting goals, we tend to think that there might be something wrong with us, or we're blocking something if things aren't happening for us. Like it's just not happening. And you hear that a lot, you know, people automatically saying, well, I must be blocking something, I'm doing something wrong. And it could be a, you know, a belief that you've held on to, of course, and things you need to work with. But it could also be that you're just reaching for or setting goals or trying to manifest things that aren't necessarily correct for you, because you're operating out of this conditioning space where you're being affected by others. So like you may be picking up on what other people or what society have told you, or what you think you should be doing, because you're not in alignment with your own energy and working with the energy in your centers. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, so you know that I'm a big fan. I've mentioned it to you, but I listen to a lot of the Abraham Hicks things on YouTube, especially. A lot of times I like to listen to him in the morning to try and get my head on straight, you know, to keep me focused. And it speaks a lot of the same stuff, that you have this internal guidance system, which we talk about in human design, that is your emotions. And that basically there is this part of all of us, this higher self part of us, that is always in line, or knows what our what it is we really want, what our higher purpose, all these things that are there for us, waiting for us. And it always holds that vision for us. It's this vibrational alignment that we're trying to achieve, right? And so, because this goes back to that law of attraction that we were talking about, you know, episode of keeping that higher vibration. There's this part of us, a higher self, that knows what's appropriate, what's going to make us happiest, what, you know, is going to be the best use of our, all these things. And when we are feeling bad or negatively about something, or worried or scared or feared, it says in Abraham Hicks in the Law of Attraction teachings, is that we're out of alignment with that. So your higher self is not going to come down to your level. It's not going to be like, oh, you're right, everything sucks. It's just going to hold this horrible, like holding this higher vision for you, right?
It's and like, come on, you can do it. Come on.
Exactly. It's got this higher vibration. And when you're feeling those things, when you're feeling bad, you start to notice, okay, I'm not feeling great about this. This means that I'm out of alignment with where it is I'm trying to go. What can I do just to make myself feel a little bit better? And so you want to know more about that and hear it over and over again, go to YouTube and look at any of the Abraham Hicks videos, because I hear it all the time. And it's amazing. Every time you hear it, you're like, oh, so good. Okay. So likewise, when you are in alignment, when you're feeling good and you have that feel good feeling and you're in the flow, that means you are in alignment with what it is you want. And so basically, in the context of human design, when we're talking about this, if things are not moving as you like, it's really the universe saying to you that we know what's right for you. We know what you're here designed to do. What you're doing right now isn't necessarily correct for you. This isn't the direction you necessarily need to go. So we're just going to hold on to that for what's right for you until you catch up, or till you rest, or till you tend to what it is you need to tend to. And so, yeah, so it's always guiding you for what's right for you. But we are influenced throughout our life by others. So with all that preamble done, let's just say that you may not be stuck. It just may be that you may be under the influence of someone else as well.
You're under the influence.
Okay. So as another side here, I'd like to real quick go through something that has been defined and taught again by Karen Curry Parker, but I think it's pretty useful here as we're going through this, because it's a touch point a lot of times of like how we can align with the energy that we need to align with. And she says that, again, this is her teaching, and it says that if you took everything in the chart, all the archetypes, all the themes, even the types, the profile, the centers, the authority, everything, and she'll say, you just churn it all up in this imaginary blender, what you would get is really what we need, that drives us as human beings or supports us to be healthy and resilient and have a healthy sense of well-being and direction that's sustainable and abundant, because all the themes in that chart is all the themes that we can experience at the high and low levels of being human. And so obviously it is a roadmap to show us how to get into alignment, and it shows us also that what we need in order to live a good life that we said is like is sustainable, feels good. And she calls them these 9 core human needs, or she has renamed it resiliency keys. And so real quick, they are these 9 needs. The first one being lovability, meaning your ability to be open to giving and receiving love and see yourself as lovable. So this is a core need that we all have. I guess we could agree on that.
Yeah.
It's pretty important. The core need of empowerment, of feeling that you have power in your life, that you are being powerful and that you're in control of the outcomes in your life. You're creating the life that you want. You're using your own empowerment. Courage, which is really to have the know-how of how to interpret and manage fear in your life so that it doesn't keep you stuck and blocked. I think we can see that in a lot of places. And I think a lot of us are always dealing with that, all of these, honestly. But a sense of courage that you feel that you can, I guess, feel the fear and do it anyhow. That's courage. Decisiveness, which is what it sounds like. Do you know how to choose what's right for you? Just for you? That one gets a lot of feedback from you.
Maybe.
The next one, emotional wisdom. Does your emotional energy keep you from acting intentionally? Because again, half of us are defined, half of us are undefined. Some of us are consistent, knowing that we have to hold a certain consistent emotional vibration just because we're responsible for the emotion in the room, and the ones that are undefined are learning through us and vice versa. And using emotional energy as a source of creativity. The next one is self-trust. Pretty self-explanatory. Do you trust yourself? Are you connected to your inner knowing, inner voice? And a lot of these little overlapping as things do. Vitality, knowing how to leverage your personal energy connected to your own life force. Are you taking care of yourself? Are you nurturing yourself? Those kind of things. Do you have the energy? Authenticity and the ability to express yourself as yourself without compromise. Hard one. And especially for women, I do believe a lot of these really hit women hard, I think, because we've just been
patriarchy.
Yeah, we've been conditioned throughout centuries and all time to take a back seat and not
make
empower ourselves, right, in these ways. And then lastly, self-worth. Your own sense of value and worthiness. Do you fully proclaim your value? And that again is another self-care issue. So again, they are lovability, empowerment, courage, decisiveness, emotional wisdom, self-trust, vitality, authenticity, and self-worth. So as we look through the centers, whether they're opened or defined, we're also going to look at the core needs that kind of help you get back on track if you find yourself getting off course here. So also in traditional human design, it always wants to, the way it was delivered, it was kind of delivered in this binary format of this or that. You're either this or you're that, which I think really as people move along in life and see that there really is that the human experience is a spectrum, right? We all
There's no black and white.
Right, because if that were true, then I think there would be no individual expression of anything, because there'd only be one of two ways to be, right? So yes, so with everything being a spectrum of expression, there's going to be a higher, lower, in between expression, and I think a good way to think about it is when we're looking at these themes and archetypes, they're of the gates and everything else. There's no one way to be. It's kind of neutral. And I've heard it explained many different ways, and I listened to it again the other day, but I have to listen to things many times. I don't know about you, but maybe you don't. I always gain something new every time I hear something. I mean, even when I'm editing this podcast, I'm listening to, I'm like, oh,
well, I
didn't remember saying that.
I watch TV shows that make me feel good. I watch them over and over. Like How I Met Your Mother. I think we're rewatching it for probably the 10th time.
That would be Modern Family. I love Modern Family.
But I still not necessarily listening, but I'll see things. I'll notice things more in the background because I know what's happening in the scene. So it's just I'm still seeing it again and again, but I am noticing new things still.
It's always new. Yeah.
It's a great show.
But just to illustrate the point for everybody out there, like I said, the word or the archetype itself, it can be neutral. So you think of the archetype of father. Okay. Now it's a word, it's neutral, it's father, but it has many different meanings to many people. And I tried to come up with a different word example, but I thought this one was really good for us in this context, because I can think of your definition of father and my definition of father. I mean, I love my dad, he's in my life, but you've had a totally different experience for your vision of your memories, your dad, your feelings about what father should be. You have an excellent role model, I think.
Yeah, I mean, it's all good. It's all good memories, all good feelings.
Lakeland has a horrible one. Mine's varied. Everybody has different, some people are scared of their father, some are very loving with their fathers, some, absent fathers. It's there's a whole spectrum of ways to experience that one words. And that's what we're talking about here, is there's variability in the human design experience as well. So just keeping that in mind. And also so the point of bringing that up is because a lot of times when we're talking about definition or openness, we always talk about the variability in the openness, right? Because it's affected. Right. But that was my point of expressing this, is that even in your definition, in your more fixed, quote unquote, fixed areas, you can experience these themes in different ways. And
yeah, I think we've kind of touched on that before, because we were looking at one. It was a gate specifically that I think I had, and you were asking me if I had ever like noticed it or anything, and I hadn't. And you're like, well, maybe it's because it was like in one of my more far off planets. So you're like, maybe it's just not as present because it's still, a little more far off. So it's, whereas some people, it could be like really present.
Right. And then also when you're working with like the gene keys, it's all very much about the shadow side, the gift side, and the city state, the exalted state, that, and it's not that once you achieve one, you never come back, you're always moving around, because we're interacting in life. We are in this whole big dance with everything around us. So, I
like the phrasing of that.
Yeah, you're in the quantum soup.
No, okay. I like whole big dance better.
So that being said, you have control of your expression. And so we're going to get into the centers here, which a lot of this is kind of information we've already touched on. But when you think about it in a different context now of like, oh, am I in alignment in this area? Could this be contributing, and what can I focus on to help get out of it? So when we talk about the head center, of course, the main themes in the head center are ideas, inspirations, questions. Yeah. It's a pressure center. 7/8 of us are undefined here. So you are in the minority, of course. We know this. Don't look surprised.
There's only 1/8 of the population. I didn't realize it was that small.
Yeah. Most of us are undefined.
And you were surrounded by people this weekend.
Oh my gosh, yeah. I was the only one this weekend that had an undefined head center. Everybody, all of you, 4 of you had defined head and ajna. It was crazy.
Did you feel extra pressured?
Not as I normally do. So anyways, it's a pressure center. So if you have this center undefined, then you're always feeling this pressure to answer questions, and most often they're not yours. So like I said, I have undefined head center with defined ajna, but I definitely can say that there is that pressure of always feeling like you have to come up with answers, like you've just got to know the answers to things, right? And what the definition there is for being an inspirational force on the planet. Like, it's not anything you intend to do, it's just energetically around you. People tend to get, if you have a defined head, more inspired because there is a more consistent way of expressing that energy. However, that also means you could also be a little more fixed and always, in that questioning and staying in your head all the time, which definitely the 4 of you are all in your you guys are in your heads a lot. So when it comes to what the head center and the energy here, when you're talking about creating intentionally and manifesting, he said this helps kind of kick off the process, because the question is asked, what if? I wonder what would happen if. What could we do? What is the meaning? All these questions. And instead of trying to answer the questions, it is intended to just ask the question and then let your imagination and the possibility thinking to move in, and all the potentials of what could happen, which then creates that emotional reaction, which is part of the creative process, the calibration process. So this is helping kick that off. And so, like I said, if you're defined, you are energetically inspiring to others. And if you're defined in this area, this part of the creative process isn't really that hard or too much trouble for you. But if you're open here, you're always trying to figure things out, so you can kind of get stuck in the whole like trying to answer instead of just asking the questions. Does that make sense? And you can tend to definitely not trust yourself. And so the core needs, resiliency keys here that are in this head center space of, okay, if you're finding yourself kind of in a stuck space, do you trust yourself? Are you being decisive? And what could you tell me that might be a way to help become more trusting in yourself and your decisiveness? What could you utilize through the lens of human design?
Oh, your authority.
Yes, your strategy and your authority. So the complete confusion on your face, like, what are you asking me?
I was so confused.
But you knew the answer. Yeah, that's right. Your strategy and authority, because you don't have to figure it out. If you just follow whatever your authority is in your strategy and your authority, you'll be led in the right direction. Which, as I said, when I first started learning all this stuff too, I was like, you hear that over and over again, strategy and authority, and it works. It becomes more automatic over time, but you definitely have to consciously, I think, choose it. I mean, I still do.
Especially for all of us, the majority of us that have to wait.
Yeah, it's hard. Okay, so the Ajna, again, conceptualization thinking is taking all those questions and trying to kind of put it into a mental process and a thought form and if you're defined, way of processing. Basically, it's your thinking. If you're defined here, of course, you can be more fixed in the way you think. Doesn't mean you're closed-minded. It just means the way you approach it. Well, if you have a channel there, it's going to affect the way you think. But also, if you have other gates that are defined that are not necessarily channels, there's still going to be that influence there. And if you have definition there, you can be more limited in not limited, you can be you're limited in how you see things because it's fixed. So if you have maybe thought forms or beliefs that have been developed over time, it may take a little more effort to kind of deconstruct those and pull those apart, because especially when you're, depending on your age, when you come into all this information, and you could have 25 years of beliefs or you could have 50, and it can change in an instant. I mean, you can certainly do that, but getting to where the root of those beliefs are sometimes can be tricky, which is why some tools like EFT and tapping and stuff that I work with works really well. Because
do you have any that you've worked through?
Any beliefs?
Yeah.
Good Lord. Yes. Tons of them. Tons and tons of them. I couldn't even, I mean, really, I couldn't even begin to tell you. And even when you get, honestly, I would say that you get one layer of a belief, sometimes it still wants to come back up and you say, oh, I didn't realize it was affecting me in that way. One I'm working on really right now, which is working, is around work and money, which is, having to work hard in order to earn, or just changing the way we think and believe about work and money. I'm working on a lot of those. And be sharing a lot of those because we all need that. So if you're open, undefined here, if you're undefined Ajna, you automatically have an undefined head.
Yes.
Yes, because otherwise
the head only connects to the Ajna.
That's right. So if it's undefined, your poor little head's not your poor little head.
It is all open.
It's all open. But it means you are incredibly open-minded, literally, and can see all kinds of ideas and possibilities and all sides of an issue, or thinking in many different ways. And it's a gift. It really is a gift. However, it can also be challenging when trying to use traditionally taught manifesting methods of keeping your focus and always visualizing exactly what you want. And mainly it's the focus thing, because focus is harder to maintain when you are shifting how you think about things all the time, especially depending on who you're around, which we talk about that. Yeah, and it also means that because if you're undefined, you'll have an undefined head. There's also even more pressure there to, and so people who have undefined ajnas often struggle with feeling this need that they need to, feeling this need to be certain about how they think. Because there can be this conditioning around not really knowing what they think.
Right. Because they're always changing how they're thinking about something.
Yeah. And what do I mean? Good
Being
Lord.
told, well, you don't know what you're saying.
Yeah. Or
you don't know anything.
Yeah. Or, people, they might conceive them as flaky, always changing their mind, or all that stuff. And like I said, it's something that your gift to this world, this is what you're going to be wise about, is seeing all the myriad different ways that people think and experiencing that and being able to do that. So of course you can imagine one of the core needs here, if you're feeling this, is that you need to focus on that decisiveness and learning to trust yourself more and not using your mind to make decisions for you, because that's bad. I wouldn't say that's bad. I mean, like, oh, no, don't do that. But it's going to save you a lot of pain if you try to not always make those head decisions, because it'll always just lead you to another question. Okay, so moving to the throat. So we sort of started talking about this already, but throat center definition plays a crucial role in type, because as you said, if you don't have a defined throat or a non-motorized throat, so that means there's no definition there, or you may have it defined but it's not connected to a motor, which is a lot of us, which is generators, projectors, and reflectors. Okay, those that do have motorized throat, manifestors, manifesting generators, right? So the non-motorized throat struggles, like we said, with the recognition piece, because it needs to be recognized in order to be heard, we say, but that also means to be seen, to be recognized. They don't hear you or see you. So this could cause those pushing behaviors of, hey, I'm here, look at me, I have something to say, or that type of thing, doing things to be seen instead of doing what you really want to be doing. And it's all about that pressure there that is also there to, I mean, I know we can both relate to this. You don't have a motor, or you don't have a defined throat, but I have a non-motorized throat. And we've all, I think, experienced that feeling of, I really want to say something, or I really, I want to be recognized for what I have to say or what I'm thinking, but a lot of times it just is not the right time, or you end up saying the wrong thing if you just kind of blurt it out. Your grandmother, case in point. We talk about all the time. My dear departed mother, who had a habit of often sticking her foot in her mouth. And not meaning to, but
no, her innocent backhand compliments were a specialty.
Yeah. So we're always trying to move this energy to the throat. It feels better because it can get pent up, just like it does if there's pressure to manifest or to communicate. And so we're trying to relieve the pressure really by speaking. And so, especially growing up or in formative years, there could be some trauma around this whole like not being seen or heard. It may not be safe. You might not feel safe to be may not feel safe to you to be yourself in your expression. You might have been shut down because of incorrect timing or whatever. You may, or if you may have pushed too hard to be seen, you may be burned out. So the core needs here are authenticity, obviously, is learning to tap into being comfortable with being authentic and being yourself, and also that vitality piece, because you may burn yourself out by trying too hard. All right, the G center is the center of what?
Okay, I always mix it up with the heart, but the G is the wheel center. No, the G center is the heart. I don't see. I always get it mixed up. I don't know.
They're both the heart. They were the heart. They split. Okay, it's the diamond in the middle.
Okay.
It's right in the middle. It's the
G
center
is the middle
of love.
Okay, so love and self.
Direction. Yes, self-love, love, direction. Mm-hmm. There you go.
That's the one where you know who you are.
Yes. Identity. Yes. And it's 50-50 here, 50% defined, undefined. Okay. So G center, when it's open, being the center of love and direction, can tend to, people who are undefined here, question their lovability. And this questioning can also influence your direction in life. And in that sense, when you are undefined here, the environment is crucial to you. It says there's a literally a connection between where you are physically in the world and your sense of direction and identity and what's correct for you. And so to really create what you really want.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
You know why it makes sense?
Why?
Because that's the monopole, and it involves the crystals.
That's really I'm just getting ready to say that's where the monopole is. And that's attracts what's, what you're lined up with. So if you're in an environment that doesn't feel good to you, or, was not correct for you, then obviously it's not going to bring to you what it is that is correct for you. So you really need to be in the right place, or a place that feels good to you. And I was talking with a client the other day because she's getting ready to move, and she has a completely open G center, and she's going through quite a few transitions right now. And as a result, has to move house. And the advice was that I was trying to give her is like, well, I actually asked her if she'd actually been in the house, like walked into it. And I think she had. And because I was like, if you hadn't, make sure you have a chance to do that. And then if it's really your only option, like if that's, you have to move there, because I know people don't have the luxury of choice a lot of times of where they can move, especially in this day and age market.
Yeah.
Don't get me started. You can hopefully at least create enough space in your home that does feel good to you, even if it's a closet, or it's your bathroom, or a bubble bath, or your kitchen. I don't know, somewhere that feels good to you. And I've even heard of people who, they may have to rearrange the furniture now and then until it feels better. Sometimes things just start to carry an energy that don't work, to pay attention to that. So if you have an open G, you could look at that. How are you feeling? Are you feeling stagnant? Are you feeling anxious? Are you feeling all these things? Look at what's happening around you and see if there's little tweaks you could maybe make. It doesn't mean everybody has to move house every time they don't feel good. Yeah, but there's that. And so defined G centers are more fixed in their identity. And so they can't really change who they are at their core. I mean, we can all change and grow and evolve, but there's going to be some fundamental things about yourself that you're not going to be able to change. And you have more of a fixed direction in life, which I'm sure a lot of people sometimes with G centers or undefined wish they had that, but it's two sides of a coin, one
of the same coin.
Yeah,
two sides of the same coin.
Yeah, one has its, we always think the grass is always greener. Same thing.
I was about to say that.
So defined G centers tend to question if they can be accepted for who they are. And so, of course, some core needs that correlate with this G center is that lovability piece, also decisiveness, courage, and authenticity, because there's going to be a certain amount of fear of being vulnerable. It's going to take some courage to show up as you are. And And I think the piece of advice I gave, and I don't even know where it came, I don't know if it was mine or not, or if I read it somewhere, but it was to the client with the undefined G center, is who you are right now is who you are. And that's just all you need to know, and to be okay with that. So those are some things there with the G center. So the will center is that other part that you get confused all the time.
Yes, I mix them up.
Yeah. And so this deals with the material plane, and it's about willpower. It's about resources. This is another one of those that most of us have it undefined. It's another like one of these 7/8 undefined centers. And the real theme here is to find the willpower to do what's necessary to take care of yourself and loved ones in order to thrive in the material plane. And so in that high expression, it's really about, because this center is, I've always called it the will center, but it's referred to as the ego center in traditional human design. But it is about being able to surrender yourself, your ego, to a place of service to the whole, so everyone thrives. But it's not about surrendering your needs. It's not about martyrdom. It's not about any of that, because this center in particular is tied to cycles of rest. This is the one we were talking about, the gas tank. Right. And so if you're defined here, you have access to that energy. And from what I find, people with a defined will center really do like to work and work physically. And a lot of people that have this defined aren't always people who are have other motors, say like manifestors can, this is a motor that they could have but not have a sacral, so they don't have any sustainable backup energy. A friend who's a projector who has it defined, but she also doesn't have a sacral, so she has this lot of energy that wants to push and work and do, but she burns out easily because you aren't resting. And so the defined will centers need they need to pay attention to the cycles of rest, and they need to stop before they go too far, because it'll just take longer, especially if they don't have defined sacral energy. When people are burnt out, and we talked about this a little bit earlier, the universe kind of puts you in a little energetic timeout. It's like, okay, you go over here and rest now. You need some rest.
Let's get it together.
And so this may be where people are experiencing this manifesting like dead space, like all of a sudden nothing seems to be happening for them, no matter how hard they try. And that's the point. They keep trying and they keep pushing, and they get burned out, and they're not honoring themselves, because there is energy. I don't know if you remember it. I've fire hosed you with a lot of information in the last 25 episodes, but especially in that one channel of the 4037 with community, there's a lot of themes there of wanting to take care of everyone, but also needing to be taken care of. They need time to retreat and to restore. And so they build these contracts within their community so that I will give what I have to you, but you have to also reciprocate, give to me. And if there's not an even balance there can definitely be some burnout. So also, if you're open here or undefined, often find yourself doing what we do in order to prove our value or worth. There's a lot of proving energy there that especially on the material world, it's not valuing your worth. And like in business, it's not charging enough, or it's doing things for free, or it's lots of things like that, not understanding how much you're worth, and not or I'm going to say not again, that trying to prove that you are worthy by doing. And so obviously some core needs here would be around that self-worth piece, obviously, vitality, self-care, taking care of yourself, and empowerment, being in control of yourself. And I'm not sure if you're mocking me.
It didn't start out that way, and
kind of mirroring my hand expressions. It's okay.
It's a fun one.
It is a fun one. So vitality, self-worth, and empowerment. So If you feel yourself burning out, make sure you take care of yourself. Okay, so moving on to the spleen, the center for instinct, timing, survival, and having the awareness, body awareness that gives us that pulse of what we need to feel to get, for what's to know what's necessary for our well-being and survival. And so we know that there's a lot of fear that lives in this center.
Lots of fear gates.
Because fear has its purpose in survival.
Yeah.
We often needed that fear in order to get us to act. But right now, or not right now, but in modern day, it's
not as, things aren't as quite as life or death to have that same level of fear. Yeah.
Yeah, for most of us, to keep us like frozen. Was it fight, flight, or freeze?
Yeah. Honestly, I don't know what I would do.
Guess it depends on the situation, right? You know, don't you always find yourself wondering that? You see that all the time. You're like, what would I do? I don't know. I would hope I wouldn't be the freeze, but I tend to freeze in other things with analysis paralysis type thing. I'm just like, oh, I'm scared. I don't do anything. So if you're defined here, you can be a little more fixed. What says in your intuitive awareness or in your timing. So what that means is that since there is a lot of intuition and instinct in there, you might say, well, maybe I always know what's the right thing to do because I get chills, or I hear something, or I use these senses. People might be aware of that. And so they could also be less open to things showing up for them in the right time because they're like, well, it doesn't really fit the format that I'm used to. So they just don't even see it. They ignore it. Undefined here, you have to also really be careful about amplifying others' fears and getting sucked into that fear energy as well. But the spleen likes to know what to expect, because again, we're talking about what's going to happen and we need to know how to react to it, right? And if it's undefined there, people can tend to hold on to things longer than they should, or longer than necessary, things, people, even bad relationships, because in some way it makes them feel safe, like they know what to expect. And also they can hold on to certain, say, even like physical things, because they never know what they're going to need. And so they can just hold on too much, and that can be unhealthy behavior as well, because you've got to let things kind of flow through there. So the core needs here obviously are going to be around self-trust, trusting that you'll know what you need to know when you need to know it, know when to act, and also courage, and also trusting in yourself as your sense of safety and security, and having the courage to feel the fear, do it anyhow. So
feel the fear.
Yeah. And that's a trick. I mean, we're talking, how long have we been human? Of trying to survive, move more and more away from that reactionary, fear-based creativity, which is what we've been moving away. We went logical and using our mind, not acting on instinct, and now moving around to the solar plexus awareness.
Yeah. And I mean, as long as we've been peoples, it's really only probably in the last like 200 or so years where survival wasn't quite so like in your face,
Yeah, because even before that, we were switching to that mental awareness, but still, for the majority of us, even with just disease and war and things like that, it was a much more treacherous existence.
Yeah. It was a little rough.
Yeah. So the solar plexus, the center for creativity and feeling, and I said being more intentional with our creating, and knowing when things feel right in order to act. So if you're open here, you're very empathetic, and you literally can feel what other people feel, but it can also make you afraid to deal with truth and consequences, meaning you don't want to upset others, don't want to rock the boat necessarily. So it can exhibit in ways of either shutting down completely, or like shutting down, not reacting, not engaging, or people pleasing and trying to, especially, doesn't mean you're trying to please everybody, but if you're around certain energies that feel more like you don't want to upset them, it's too much, it's felt too intensely, it can cause people to people please. What do you have something to say?
No, there's just a couple things from this weekend that came in, and then also Meredith from Salt Lake City Housewives. I'm disengaging.
Well, that's right. You are emotionally undefined. Yeah. Let's see. I know I am. Your aunt is, I believe. Yes.
Valerie was, because she was mental.
No, she's not defined.
Undefined.
Yeah, Mary Claire is defined. Oh, we said their names. Oh no. It's all right. I also found out they didn't know you had a podcast till this weekend.
Like I said, I haven't really told anyone.
So if you're defined in the emotional solar plexus, that means you're working with your emotional wave and clarity over time, not to rush your decisions. And if you don't understand that you have your own natural rhythm and wave and things up or down just is, there can be a lot more non-deliberate creation. And you can also be forced to, in action, creating when you don't want to, or you may feel like you have to, and it can lead to a lot of disappointment, and you're being more reactive than you are just taking the time to see if that's something you really want to do. So obviously in this area is a big area. You're either in the sense of manifesting and creating. If you're open in that area, look at, am I really going after things I want to? Is this really what I want to do? Or I'm just trying to make my family happy by going to medical school? It's just like, maybe, I don't know. Or lots of decisions in life that could be influenced by how those around you feel if you're open and you just want to make it easier for yourself. And then also, if you're defined, like I said, if you're rushing into decisions, it can cause a lot of disappointment, frustration.
Is Presley undefined?
Yes, you both are. So core needs here: courage, again, emotional wisdom, obviously, empowerment and decisiveness. So you can kind of see how these needs are intertwining and how they kind of weave through the whole chart.
They are the 9 core needs.
Tell you what, I am not a framework builder. It's like I'm always amazed when people come up with all these systems and frameworks. I'm like, how do you do that? I'm just floating around all the time. Okay, so the sacral center, we know this is another one that determines type, life force, workforce energy. If you're undefined, such as yourself, you're projectors, reflectors, manifestors, you have borrowed energy there. May not know when enough is enough because you're amplifying the energy of any defined sacrals around you. And so you feel like you got it and you can push through. But again, another huge spot for burnout here, and another manifesting dead zone. Basically, if you're pushed too hard, you're burned out, you're going to get put in that timeout. Things, no matter how hard you try, yes, how hard you try, they're not going to be working for you. And then also, if you're defined here, I mean, we defined individuals, this is our key to success, is our sacral response. It is our golden compass of what we need to do and when we need to do it. It's pretty simple.
Aren't you guys special?
You would think, but I can tell you probably a majority of us are not even paying attention because I'm even aware of it. And I go back throughout the day and I say, was I always following my sacral response? I mean, seriously, I can tell when I'm overriding it now, and it may be because I have obligations and I don't feel like doing that right now, but I will. Getting better at it. But we're so automatically like following what our head wants to tell us to do all the time that it does take a lot of awareness and effort. It's almost like you gotta slow it down a little bit. So what happens is if we don't trust it, so if we're not responding to things, then obviously we can make incorrect decisions, or decisions that are incorrect for us, or the use of our energy. And one thing with sacrals is that defined sacrals is we can often get frustrated and quit things. That's one thing to say about generators, especially, are just like quitters.
It's just quit all the time.
Feels frustrated. Well, because if we had not entered into it correctly, there's a better chance that we will just get frustrated and quit. Of course, there is also that stair-step learning curve, which is a different topic, but this action of overriding your sacral keeps you from creating things that you want, because you could be doing things that you don't need to be doing. So again, a core needs here, you can probably guess, decisiveness, courage, empowerment, vitality, because anytime we're talking about anywhere you can burn out in the chart, which is a lot of these motors, then there's going to be that need to self-care, vitality, and
recharge,
having the courage to do what's right for you and not everybody else, which means you have to follow strategy and authority. Okay, lastly, the root center, the center for adrenalized energy, another pressure center. Why are you laughing?
Because it's just, I have the spleen, which is all about fear and all this, and then there's the root, which is the adrenalized energy. So it's like there's a lot of jumpiness, it feels like.
Well, it could be, but honestly, if you're defined here, you have your own way of experiencing this pulse of adrenalized energy. So what that means is that you have your own way of tapping in when the right time is to act. You can feel the pulse of energy. So for you, like, you would know when you have the energy to do something and when you don't. Like, you might,
like, it happened yesterday, because let's see, yesterday was Tuesday, so like Monday I really, with work, I got some stuff done, but it really was like I was dragging. And then yesterday I worked till like 7:30 because I was just like on a roll, and I had it, like I could get things done, and I was just like knocking things off.
That's great.
And I was like, this is good. This is good.
And this, because, we're talking about everybody, when you're defined, because when you're defined, there is your own natural way of getting stuff done. In that sense, there's this pulse of energy. You have it, it's tapped in, it's there, but you don't always know when it's going to be. It's not predictable, right? So unfortunately, in traditional work situations, not everybody has the luxury of saying, well, I just don't have my root energy pulse right now, I can't do anything. You might get away with it more now working at home, but you can spread it out. But traditionally, like, you work in an office, everybody's supposed to decide to show up, and everybody's supposed
work
to show up and work the same hours,
the same
output,
time frame.
Right. So as you can see, this would be a recipe for burnout. Yes, because you're pushing against your own natural pulse of what's the correct use of your energy. Likewise, if you are open here, it's another pressure center, and it's this feeling, this pressure to always get the thing done. It's just, I want to get it done, get rid of this pressure, get my work done, get it done, have a to-do list. I'll rest after I get XYZ done, and then you get XYZ done, and then you start all over on ABCD, and it's just this never-ending to-do list of all the things you have to do, because you're always feeling under pressure to be doing something, right? But it's just, you're just trying to get rid of the pressure. And so obviously you could literally physically burn yourself out by trying to do too much, right? And never giving yourself a break. So the real core need in the root center is vitality, self-care, paying attention, resting, taking care of yourself, and realizing, if you have an endless to-do list, ask yourself, okay, what does this really need to be done right now? I mean, do I really need to get the clothes out of my closet to go to Goodwill today?
Do I really have to wipe down the blinds? Do I need to do that?
That's a no for me anytime.
I don't think I've ever done it.
I don't like that goes into that details. Okay, yeah, that's something I want to deal with. So anyways, so that's kind of a walk through the centers of when you're out of balance, and or maybe you feel like things aren't moving or you feel stuck, to kind of look at your own chart, look at your definition, see where you're open, where you're defined, and what the main themes are there, and if you are actually meeting the needs that you have there as far as those 9 core needs. And yeah, so that was that. And the only thing you really need to know, follow your strategy authority and tend to your needs. But you know what?
It's so simple. Back to that.
It's so simple. Nobody will believe it's that easy, including myself. So we have to hear it over and over again.
It can't be.
We have to talk about it. Yep. We have to do all the things to take care of that. But
let's do all the things.
Yeah. So I think it's something to explore. I mean, I know that burnout's a big topic these days. Like people are feeling it. And it's ironic, isn't it, that the whole world took a pause, yet we're more burned out than ever. You know, now that life
Which I wonder how much of it is like not necessarily, I don't know, like if there is actually more burnout or if it's just people are like realizing it more, especially since we had more of this, like the whole world was on break, so like people weren't doing things, and then now people are like getting back into things and they're like, this is too much, and they're just kind of seeing it more and recognizing it more.
I think it's a little bit of both and a lot more.
That's what I always wonder when anything's, they're like, oh, this is increased or whatever. It's like, has it really, or we just, people are noticing it more? It's like when, like how they say, like if you're looking at getting a new car and then you start seeing that car all over the roads, they're like, there's not more of them. You're just seeing them because you're focused on it.
You're aware of it. Yeah. Awareness is key. Well, it sounds like we have an episode to talk about. Well, I mean, we definitely have, but it is a topic that can be seen in many different ways. Like I said, of how, you know, how the different types experience burnout, you know, all these things. So, you know, a lot more to talk about, but that's where we're going to wrap it up today. And what was I going to say? I know what I wanted to say. I wanted to let everybody out there, it's in the show notes, but I wanted to let everybody know that you can now get a free copy of your human design chart on my website directly, which is super exciting. It's humandesignhive.com. And there's up in the top menu, says free chart. What does it say for human design chart? It says free. I'm trying to think of the exact words of what it says now.
Free anyways, there's chart, free something chart. It's there.
Get your free chart. But it's in the show notes too. And so just go there and you can get your body graph, and you can run several charts on anybody that you have the birth details from if you want to. And I will say, if you do that, make sure that once you get your chart to go ahead and download it. You can download it and keep it as a PDF. And you know what I would say, print it out too, put it up on your wall somewhere you're going to see it. Or if you're going to download it to your phone, put it on a wallpaper, on your phone background, whatever you want to call it, and get familiar with your design, because it'll start influencing you just by seeing it.
So fascinating.
It's so fascinating. So I'm very excited to have that capability on there now. And yeah, so there you go. So that's all I have for today. And we really appreciate everybody listening. Any final words from you, Haley?
That's how the cookie crumbles.
Wow.
Mic drop.
Yeah, you know, I always throw it back to you, but it's okay. Well, I hate to wrap it up and feel like you're just sitting there and I'm like, what if you have something to say? I want to give you the opportunity to speak. But we'll get there.
I don't have a defined throat.
That's why I'm recognizing you. All right. Well, that's it for today. We'll see you in the next episode, and bye.
Bye.
You made it all the way to the end of today's episode, so you must have liked what you heard. If you did, make sure you subscribe so you never miss an episode, and perhaps leave us a good review. And if you know someone who wants to dig into all things human design with us, make sure you share the Human Design Hive podcast with them. We'd really appreciate it. Thanks for listening.